Never give the first prize. You always lose.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order.
I know that. I know, but I don't have to. But I have different reasons.
So I'd like to ask the audience to refrain from
Where's Al?
chatting for a little bit so we can do our work here. Thank you very much for hearing me.
We're gone?
Okay. Cliff has moved to our table.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, now I have my back to you.
Well, it's over.
Oh, okay. I don't blame you.
You don't get a mic.
Okay. So the first article we need to discuss or vote on whether we recommend or not is Article 2. So I'd like to start that with a motion for someone.
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 2.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, discussion regarding the recommendation of Article 2. Brian?
What a surprise, I have something to say. I'm just gonna, since these are all connected, I'm just gonna talk about my perspective on all four of the related articles. I'm gonna support Article 2 and 3, but not 4 and 5. And the reason being is that, based on the discussions with the school board, and my, hard questioning of, and their willingness to share their perspective, I think that the town needs to make sure that it has, a larger amount of money set aside for educating disabled children, which is Article 2, and, making sure that there's enough money for the maintenance of school facilities. I think that right now the technology fund is in a good position. That's why I don't think we need to add more money to it this year. And I think that we need to have a, well, there's a definite need for more money for the expansion of school facilities. There's quite a bit of money in there, and adding $20,000 or $50,000 or even $100 to what will likely be several $1 million of expenditures isn't going to make a difference really in the viability of a future project. But it will make a difference if we actually have a surplus big enough that there's $100,000 possibly going to reduce the impact of taxes. And so, I think that the first two of these four articles are the ones that I'm going to support. Therefore, if there is a big surplus, there's still going to be money reducing taxes this year.
Somebody's trying to
The school
silence
board does a great job controlling the costs, and, you know, maybe we'll have a lot of extra revenue this year, so there will be a bigger surplus.
Thank you. Dana?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Brian, if you're not willing to vote for those, are you suggesting other areas being increased by percentage?
No.
No.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of recommending Article 2, raise your right hand.
I think that's unanimous.
Al, I couldn't see Al. Okay, that was unanimous. Okay, Article 3 is for the expendable trust fund for repairs and maintenance of school facilities. Are there any other questions regarding Article 3?
I'll make a motion to recommend it.
Second it.
Thank you. Seeing no questions or discussion, I'll call for a vote. Raise your right hand if you're in favor.
Right hand.
That looks unanimous. I just want you to know, I can't see Al or Leo's hand, so.
Stick 'em forward.
Okay, Article 4, and this would be for the purchase of technology equipment. Need a motion to recommend this?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Leo.
Leo seconded, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor of Article 4, raise your right hand. Leo, Dana, and Al, and Cliff are in favor. Nay? Larry, Roseanne,
4.
Brian, and Lorianne, so it's tied.
Fails.
Motion
Motion
fails.
fails.
Article 5, to see if the school district will vote to appropriate 2/5 of the surplus for expansion of school facilities capital reserve. Is there a motion to recommend this article?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Roseanne, second by Dana?
Leo?
Leo? All right, any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Leo, Dana, Lorianne, and Cliff. All those opposed? Roseanne, Larry, Al, and Brian. Motion fails. Okay, Article 6 is the collective bargaining agreement. And
I'll make a motion to accept that Article 6,
Recommend it?
recommend it, as written.
I'll
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. Discussion? Okay,
And
go ahead.
I just was thinking that there was a lot of discussion on this. If there are any questions that went unasked, there was that opportunity.
Okay, seeing none?
I have a comment, but I'm gonna hold back and let some other members speak, so I don't hog.
Well, I just want to make a comment. I think it would have been helpful perhaps in the next round of the negotiations that the Budget Committee has a copy of the current contract and a copy of the new contract verbatim. So there were some things in here tonight that took some of us by surprise. Not enough that I would vote against it, but just a recommendation moving forward.
Al?
When this came up earlier, I talked about future liability. When a benefit is changed and it's not received in that year, we don't book it, as I understand it, or we don't put it down in the budget. And I think that's,
Sorry, Al, can you say that again? I didn't-
trying to think of a good example.
I just didn't hear you.
Oh, okay. When a budget change, when a benefit change is agreed to, but no one in that particular year is affected by it, it doesn't show up in the budget. However, it does provide a future liability for the town of Newmarket. For example, if, and I know pensions, let me think of another thing. Medical insurance. Let's say, for example, it was agreed during the union negotiations that anybody with 75 years of experience, I'm just taking it out of there, gets all of their medical insurance paid for. There is nobody that would receive that benefit this year, so therefore it wouldn't be costed into this number. However, if somebody did receive that benefit, and I picked a terrible example, it is a liability to the community. And somehow I'd like to see that in the future presented as part of changes in benefit plans.
Thank you, Al. Leo?
Yeah, I've got no problem with this, the amounts and whatever in this agreement, but I read this RSA 273A12, the Evergreen Agreement, and I have never seen such a
Convoluted.
political thing of payback to the unions for their support of the legislature. And it, basically, when you negotiate with a union, everybody starts with zero, and you work from there. With this evergreen clause, you start with $1 million, whatever, and then you work up or down. You can't go down. I mean, if you go down, no one will ever approve it. So it's just, I just can't believe the legislature would, how they snuck this through or whatever on people. It's just, I just can't buy this evergreen clause here. But I have no problem with the numbers, but from now on, we're not starting, both negotiating teams, they're not starting with zero. They're gonna be starting at one number, and it's gonna be, make it much more difficult to bargain in the future, because there's no reason for, people to bargain if they already have built-in steps and all this other stuff. It's crazy. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian?
I think that the evergreen clause is troubling, and the way I think about it, we don't have a control over it, it's there. The legislature forced it on the communities, and the problem is that, I think, to put it more in specific terms, let's say the contract was not as austere as this one is, and the economic situation wasn't this, and it was a good economic situation, so the raises were 2.5%, and the scale was 1.5% increases. That's pretty much gonna be guaranteed forever, because if the union and the town don't come to agreement, that's it. And so, from a negotiating perspective, that puts the communities at a really hard spot, and I don't understand what the thinking was. But I do think that the contract that's been presented is a good one for the times we're in, and I appreciate, and I know some of the teachers in the district, friends and neighbors, and I appreciate that, you know, about half of them are taking a wage decrease. I don't agree with the comments about, well, my health insurance costs are going up, so I don't have a raise in the future years. That's true for everybody. Healthcare is part of the package of salary, and it's gonna cost more pretty much forever, even whatever Congress does. But it has significant benefit enough that the union is presenting that they want it the way it is, with some minor changes, which do cost money. But there's a huge amount of value there. And unions and individual employees need to figure out, do I want more money now, or do I want the security blanket that a very good health insurance plan presents? I think the biggest thing that would benefit community members' understanding, and I received it from the union representative after the last budget meeting, is how Newmarket's salary structure for teachers compares to the adjacent ones. And in the information we got tonight, it gave us average salaries, which I don't find very helpful, because maybe Newmarket's district is weighted with 40-year veterans, 20-year veterans, but Exeter's is not, or Epping's or Dover's is not, so I can't compare those two. But what I can compare is what the beginning salary of a teacher is at certain education levels, meaning if they have a master's degree or a bachelor's or whatever. And from the information I received and from what I've heard from other people, we pay about $5,000 less for the first year that you come to the district. And I think voters need to understand that, because that some of our teachers are making good salaries, good middle income community salaries, but it's a long time to get there, and starting at 30,000, I think it is for first year teacher, or 35, I can't remember the number, but if you go to adjacent communities and districts, the pay salary range starts much higher. So eventually we'll need to become more competitive, unless, you know, somehow we continue to have the great pride we do, but that can't last forever. Pride doesn't last forever. I have a friend who moved his teaching job to Exeter from Maine and is receiving $10,000 more a year. Same job.
No state tax.
Well, no, he pays the Maine income tax
Oh.
and the
Oh,
property
yeah.
tax and gets to drive longer. So that's the
Oh.
trade-off. But, so I appreciate everybody answering the questions we had about it, and I explained to Cliff, I hope the presentation, the information is a little different when it comes to the deliberative session, so it's easier for people to pick up the paper and understand what it's saying.
Thank you, Brian. Is there any other comments?
Al?
Al?
I've been debating all week as to whether I should bring the subject up, but I guess it's, I won't sleep as well tonight if I don't bring it up. And that's the issue of how this union contract is put together relative to pay. And I have a personal and very strong belief that our exceptional teachers should get paid more than they are now. I agree with Brian. I also went through all the numbers in the communities, and we're kind of in the middle. But the thought of paying our exceptional teachers and our average teachers and our below-average teachers the same, it troubles me, as does our new Secretary of Education under Barack Obama, who's really encouraging pay for performance. I was at a gathering a couple weeks ago with a bunch of people who have kids in the education system, and we were talking about the school. And it's clear to the it's clear to the parents that we have some really exceptional folks. And by design, like in any organization, I think those folks should be paid more than they're being paid. And that's my strong feeling that, like in every other organization, we have great performers and we have average performers. So, just a comment.
Thank you, Al. Anybody else? Okay, did we get a motion?
Yeah.
We did, okay. All right, so let's take a vote on Article 6. All those in favor of recommending Article 6, raise your right hand. Theo, is your hand up? Yep.
High as I can get it.
And
Let me help you.
those opposed, raise your right hand. 6-2. It can be your left or right hand, it doesn't matter. I can say right hand. Okay. And the next article is 8, and this is to
We don't have to do 7?
recommend or not recommend, I need a motion to recommend to raise and appropriate $122,130 for the modular classroom. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to recommend Article 8.
Leo motion, Larry second. Thank you, Larry. Any discussion? Seeing none? Brian?
We can't go by this one that fast.
I tried.
I just, I'm gonna vote for it, but, and I think at a previous meeting I expressed this poorly, and I apologize to the school board for doing that, but I don't want more surprises. This presentation of the portable classroom came in, the recognition of the need for it came very late in the budget process. And if it had been recognized earlier in the year, we might have had a different, more lasting proposal to put forward. I know it would have been rushed, and rushed doesn't usually work, but I just want to say, the facilities committee, I know the school board's working on it. Next March is the deadline, not 2 Marches from now, to get this resolved and understand how we can get the elementary school crowding issue addressed appropriately. The modular is not the way that any of us want the kids educated. So I'm supporting this because I recognize we don't want to have 30-plus kids in a classroom. It's not good for the education process, and we don't want to set them back so early in their educational process. I hope we stay on the ball so we're not surprised by another large class coming in and producing the need for another modular.
Thank you. Leo and then Al?
Yeah, you know, I've been looking at these birth rates and everything, and surprises. To me, it's not going to be a surprise this fall when there's 60 more kids in the elementary schools coming fall than there are now. There's going to be 110 2 years from now. There's going to be 180 3 years from now. We're going to be talking about 3 modulars next year, 5 modulars the following year. That's why this study that they're talking about setting things back another year, and we're really going to be in a hole. Thank you.
Al?
I'm going to support it reluctantly, and the reason I'm reluctant is because I think it gives us another excuse not to address a need that's right around the corner. somebody was talking the math of students coming in and where they are, and I'm afraid that this is just going to allow us to breathe free for a little while. I don't think we should breathe free. I think if somebody talked about it, the limitations on schools and safety and all, I'd like to see us behave like that's the problem today. I'd like to, if we don't have a solution to facilities for the elementary school next year, and I agree, Mark, I mean, that seems to be, I think we should be ashamed of ourselves, and I just hope this doesn't allow us to keep
Putting it on.
whistling in the wind, because it's a mess. And I'd rather face it this year rather than have a Band-Aid approach, but I guess there's nothing we can do. So I will support it, but really reluctantly.
Dana?
I was just thinking the same thing about Brian and what Al was saying. I prefer it myself, and I made that comment to a number of people, that I think we should have had a plan in place, bit the bullet, and added on the classroom, brick and mortar, because putting in this money for two or one module, it's a Band-Aid approach, absolutely. I'm concerned that we didn't, for whatever the reasons are, we didn't have a plan in place, maybe because the facilities committee isn't large enough, it needs more members. I don't know what the problem was, but I would prefer to something a little more solid, something that would have been far more tangible down the road as a permanent structure, than to have the modules, which, again, I know we had a discussion here, and somebody on the school board, I think, said, or somebody in the public, can't remember who said it at the last meeting, that they're only temporary. They're only temporary. Well, the modules that are currently there now, they've been there for 20 years, and those are temporary. So depends on what your definition of temporary is. But I would have preferred to have seen permanent structure there. But I will support this evening, because I do see the need that we have to have it. So I'm going to support it, but reluctantly as well. And if you need people on the facilities committee, I'll make myself available to help out.
Cliff, yeah?
A couple comments. One, Al, we'll have something next year, and I'm very hopeful that our economic situation is going to be a little bit better, so that and that those TIF monies will be available as part of an increased assessed value, so that the impact of that will be that much more reduced, and it'll have a better opportunity to pass. When it comes to that, Leo, hopefully it makes you feel better. There's been a lot of looking ongoing with the birth statistics. One of the conclusions, I haven't personally reviewed it as much as I wish to, but one of the take-homes is that somewhere around 65% of the time, relying on the birth statistics to predict the size of a particular grade level when it reaches school, 65% of the time, I think, it's incorrect. It's off by incorrect, I mean by off by 19 or so, which is a whole classroom. So there's a lot of variability. There's a lot of folks moving in and out of town that needs to play into those numbers. That we need to look at it with a little bit more than just those who are here. The numbers of students in our school district that their parents were living in Newmarket when they were born is somewhere less than 30%, I think. So the numbers are more complicated than they might appear at first blush. And I agree. I wish we had the opportunity to not be in the situation to be applying Band-Aids. It's been a theme for decades, it seems.
Thank you, Cliff.
And let me comment, say, if school board said no, that normally in February or late January, they put their census out for who they think might be coming in this fall. I'd like to suggest that while you're doing it, add the next years and the following years to see what the families that are living here now, what they plan to be, see if it's, how it compares with what's coming in this fall, the following year. In
To
other words,
reach out to the folks with
The
the,
5-year-olds and the 4-year-olds or whatever. That way there. If you're going to the census, just ask that added question, what people have in their families, whether they're 6-year-olds, ask them if they also have 5s or 4s. And that will give you a ratio somewhat of comparison between what is gonna be starting this fall with the fall after and the subsequent fall. And you could also even go further if you really wanted to, and check the birth certificates of the people who were born 6 years, 5 years, and see if, how many of them are still living here, or the people who said they're coming this fall, how many of them were in that class that was born 6 years ago. Thank you.
I had mentioned at some of the hearings that I was surprised to see that we were gonna go to just lease it. If we lease it for the 3 years, the total was $153,402, as opposed to buying it outright and having something after the 3 years. And that's only a difference of $34,000 extra. And we would be able to have it instead of, you know, turning it back over. And I think it is just a Band-Aid. And I truthfully would rather see that 150,000, especially seeing how we're not gonna own it. It's to me, it's throwing money away. I'd rather see that 150,000 saved to utilize to hopefully, if the town approves, to put it towards brick and mortar at the elementary school and have something permanent.
Thank you.
I have a question.
the,
Go ahead, Cliff.
after the term of the lease is out, there would be an opportunity at that point to purchase. I think that's, the unit, so it's not, you know, prescribed that it has to go back at that point. And being a that much more used unit, the expense of that, I can't speak to what that is. Do you have a feel for what those numbers would be? I hope to not need it. I hope to start next year with no Band-Aids.
That was actually, you answered my question, except for, Sue, and I'm not sure if you answered that. Do we know on the third year what the buyout would be? You're saying no, huh? Isn't that a little odd that we wouldn't know that?
It would be the market value at that point in time.
Oh, so it's based on the market value. That's the reason why we don't know. Thank you.
Okay, Roseanne?
But usually when you do an RFP for any product lease or anything, there's always a buyback price. And that probably should have been asked for in the RFP, and I'm surprised it wasn't. Okay.
Thank you.
I also think that the school board made a political calculation, because to buy it outright needs a 60% vote, even if it's not bonded, which I don't understand. That was what was said at the last budget meeting.
It was said by someone, but I didn't quote that. I just said that I would check on that for you. If you were going to do anything that does not have an escape clause over a period of time, it does need to be 60%. But if you do it in 1 year, no. You can buy it outright in 1 year. You can buy it out without any bonding, without any. You can
Without a
buy it
60%.
Without a 60%.
Okay, so
You could buy it outright for the 180, and that's why I have the tax rate down there for you. You could buy it outright.
So is it possible this, at the deliberative session, we could revise this warrant
You
article?
could, you're right,
To
you
say
could.
to buy or lease?
Yep, you could.
And that way, if this town can provide the construction services for almost nothing, you'll have enough authority within the 122 to actually just buy it.
And you don't even have to do it deliberative. If the school board wants to make that change, they could make that change now, if you would prefer that to be written that way.
It's too late to make it now. I'm just-
No, I'm just
I
saying.
mean, I think what I would suggest, if the committee here thinks I had understood from the last meeting that it needed to be, I think we left with the impression that to buy it, it's a 60% vote, which I didn't understand.
And that
I
was
understand
before.
now, and I think that if we can get this town to provide some of the services, which I hope that discussion can happen before deliberative, and they are willing to dig the ditch for the sewer and water, which they do all the time for laying new sewer and water pipes, and some of the other facility work to make the pad available, that might reduce the cost. And so hopefully by deliberative session, we can understand that, and the school board can work to present possible revised language, if that's the way the school board wants to go, or maybe the budget committee or public members can do that. I don't want to try to finagle it tonight without knowing the details, if that's possible.
Lori, yeah.
Dana?
Yeah, I'm a little amazed here that I do understand that the last meeting we had, you were going to go back, Sue, and check on that, see if it required that.
And I did, and I
Yeah,
told you
you
it
did.
doesn't.
Just tonight we found out though, right? I don't remember having this information prior to this evening.
But this is the first meeting we've had since the last time
Okay,
we met.
perhaps a memo should have gone out to the budget committee. Thank you. And I'm not trying to give anybody a hard time, I'm just, again, it's something else we're finding out.
Any more discussion on Article 8? All right, all those in favor of Article 8, raise your right hand.
We have a motion?
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
You made it and Larry seconded it.
It's been so long.
I think it's unanimous.
Okay, unanimous?
Yeah.
Okay, last article,
That's good.
Article 10. Before we get into a motion, I just want to say that I appreciate the amount of work the school board and the budget committee put into really looking at this and working hard, attending some long meetings, a lot of them. And I just want to tell everyone I appreciate all the work that everybody did for this. So,
I'd like to make a motion
thank you, Roseanne.
to amend the dollar amount in Article 10
To what amount?
to 14
Which,
million.
wait a minute,
Okay.
which dollar? Oh, okay, thank you. All right, go ahead.
To amend the $14,620,320 by deleting $23,957, it would bring it to $14,596,043. And the $23,957 that I'm,
Get your number,
Just gotta tell you.
14,000.
14596,043.
Thank
The
you.
original was 14620,320,
Yep,
and I'm deducting it by $23,957, which is the dollar amount of the administrative raises.
23,000.
$23,957.
okay, is there a second? Larry Pickering, second? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand.
Discuss.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Discussion.
discussion. Brian?
Am I correct in understanding that if we did pass this, that doesn't mean there won't be raises for the administrators? It means the school board gets to make a
Right.
budget decision?
That's right.
That's correct.
I can't support it then.
Would you repeat what you just said, please?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get that either.
The school board retains control over the expenditure of money to the authorized level.
Right.
All we're changing is the overall expenditure, and apparently trying to send a message that we don't think the administrators deserve any salary adjustment. And I don't think that is I don't support that approach. In my view of the budget for the school district, I try to understand that what they're presenting as the budget is not frivolous and meets the current programmatic needs of the school district. And to the extent they could, they cut things that you could make a very strong argument could be needed, like new cafeteria tables for the ones that are damaged,
Windows.
window replacement at the elementary school that are original windows.
And I know that Roseanne, you feel very strongly in particular that there shouldn't be any pay raises for anybody on the government side, but I'm not sure that this is the way to make that happen.
Al and then Dana?
I agree with what Brian just said. When I looked at three items in the budget, the contract, and how we determined the price of, what the new contract cost the town, I had an issue with future liability. When I looked at across-the-board pay increases for our different performance levels, I had an issue which I spoke to you folks about. And I have another point as it relates to this, and that is that I think we should give our administrators an increase. But by the same token, I think at this time next year, when we're going through the budgets, we ought to see some real innovation out of our administrative group. Mark and I have talked about federal monies that are available that will go into a school system that will reward that system for exceptional changes within that school system that make it stand out and stand above the best. I know there's a fair amount of federal money available for that. And I'd like to lend my support to Mark and the administrative staff. I think they're great. But by the same token, I'd like to see something in the Exeter newspaper next year that talks about what Newmarket did. And I want to give you every support and benefit that we can do to get that. And I'm hoping that when we do these again next year, that won't even come up, because we'll be so pleased with what's happened. So that's my speech.
Thank you, Al. Dana?
Yeah, I understand where Roseanne is coming from, because initially, that was my line of thought, not just in that area, but I think I would have felt better if, and I'm not just saying the faculty, but I'm talking about staff-wise, I'm talking about the town side, I'm talking unions, everything. If there was no raises at all for anyone, this was in here, I could support that. However, if you are going to be giving some type of, increase, marginal, small, doesn't matter what the size is, to any entity, then you need to be fair across the board to everybody else. And I've looked at that, and I think I've talked to a couple of school board members, and I've talked to Mark about it, and I'm not even gonna say I'm reluctant to support it, I'm not. I just feel we'd have a lot more leverage to take that out if it was across the board and nobody got anything. So I'm going to support it.
Oriana, I'd like to make a comment.
Cliff?
I am going to support it.
The amendment?
No,
The-
the amount. Don't confuse the issue.
Just a brief couple of comments on, administrative raises. One is that they're key positions. One of the common denominators they find in schools that perform very well is it's teacher to student ratio, it's what is important, and up-to-date curriculum, et cetera. There's a lot of things that play into it, but something that is very critical is outstanding administration. And there's a shortage of good administrators. The length of service in a district for principals and superintendents, et cetera, is not very long. It's in the 3 to 5 year category. With that kind of turnover, it's hard to develop programs and have consistency and have a staff that's, we can say that we have half of our staff at a senior level. And getting back finally to Al's point, with the collective bargaining agreement, we don't have much latitude in pay performance. That's not necessarily the case with the administrative team. We can award for performance. And I would like to see the original number stand.
Thank you, Cliff. Is there any more discussion? Okay, so we're gonna vote on Roseanne's motion to amend the number to 14,596,043. 043. Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Okay, motion on the amendment fails.
Is it proper to make a motion to accept articles?
To recommend
To
article
recommend
as
Article
written.
10 as written? So moved.
Thank you.
You need a second.
Yes,
Second.
Brian Hart, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the budget, recommending the budget as proposed, raise your right hand. Okay, opposed?
I was counting you out.
Thank you. Okay,
Motion to adjourn?
thank you very much. I would like to ask the Budget Committee real quickly, do you guys want to do,
Yeah, we took it.
Was
I
there a
didn't
vote?
hear you.
I
We
made
can
it.
do the minutes, Saturday's only the morning, we have 4 sets of minutes, is that all right with everyone? Okay. All right, now we'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you to the public.